Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, I'm here with my really good friend Mike Leone, and he is from Ensenada, Baja California. Me and him have been really good friends for many years, and in fact, he's actually helped me out throughout the years by making music for the show. So if you guys ever watch a complete video and you hear the music at the end of the video, that was Mike Leone. He's the one that helped produce that and make that for me, and he helped me make the intro for my other channel and so many other things. And anyways, I'm here to interview him because a lot of people out there, they ask me so many questions about, well, what is life out here? I'm a young guy. I need to find work, all these things that, well, I figured, hey, if I interview Mike, we talk about what his life is like out here and how he loves it out here, and his transition to, life out here, that maybe it'll give some insight to some of you guys out there that are looking and interested in perhaps, making this transition to living out here, to moving to Mexico, maybe even another country. It doesn't matter. But the point is that, there's a lot of you guys out there that are all looking for that freedom. You guys are looking for that way out, and you're young, and you might not see, much of a future left for you in the USA. And so, well, this is why we're here. We're here to let you know that there's some hope out there. Now, you got to put in that work and you got to put in that effort, but definitely there's hope, and there's definitely a solution, and a better life out there. So, with all that being said, I want to introduce you guys to, again, my friend Mike. And Mike, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How is it that you ended up in Mexico? Where are you from in the USA? And what is your background? I know you speak Spanish, just like I do, so that's an advantage. But tell us about yourself, so I can be quiet for a second and let
Yeah.
let people know who you are. So, who are you?
All right. So my name is Mike. What's up, everybody? Thanks, Jose, for having me come and talk a little bit about my life living here in Mexico and how I ended up here. I grew up in New Jersey. I come from a Cuban Italian family, so Latin culture. Pretty big family on both sides. And after high school, I decided to go to school for linguistics in Boston. And after that, came home and ended up going out to LA, um, using nothing of my degree and start working in production. And found myself now, as an audio engineer through, years of just working at different studios and, lots of different experience living in LA. Um, I found myself becoming an audio engineer, like focusing on that, music, and ended up in Mexico during COVID because my girlfriend at the time was living here in Ensenada. I had been here already a few times, and I really liked it. And I said, you know what, I've always wanted to live in another country. I think Mexico could be a really good option. I'd visited, like I said, Ensenada many times before, and I'd been to Mexico City before that. Years prior, been to other countries in Latin America, and I said, I think this could be a really good opportunity. I was sort of like half employed, finding my footing as like a freelancer, and I figured this is like a good stepping stone, and get out before things get crazy. And
Yeah, so you say you moved out here during COVID, right? Or at the beginning of COVID. And so that was already like 5 years ago, right? And so how old are you now?
okay, so yeah, that was about 5 years ago, exactly. Like, I think that was actually probably about the same time that I found your channel, like during COVID, like 5 years ago. And that's like, I had already also been to Merida before, but that's like, I think maybe when we even might have like gotten in touch and like started, talking. But yeah, like 5 years ago, and I guess I was what,
Well,
28, about to be 29.
yeah, so you moved out here. So basically you moved to Ensenada. And so Ensenada is in Baja California, right?
Yes, yeah, Ensenada is in Baja California. It's about an hour and a half south of Tijuana.
Okay, okay.
It's like mostly on the coast. I mean, there's some areas that are more inland and whatnot, but it's like a very coastal city. The weather is very much like what you would expect in San Diego or LA. I mean, Baja California. I mean, it's like under California, so it's pretty much the same kind of geography and weather. And
Okay.
yeah, like so the weather in Ensenada, like the climate in general, it's like very mild. I'd say like the winters are like seemingly long and the summers are kind of short, and it can get like pretty hot in the summer, maybe up to like 90 degrees on a really hot day. But especially because we're so close to the ocean, there's always like kind of like a little bit of a breeze. Like even this morning when I like went out to walk the dog, there's like a huge, just like I could see over the ocean, like a huge just cloud of mist that's just like coming
Wow.
in,
And
so it's like
how cold does it get?
it can get pretty cold. I mean, it can get down to like 40 at night, 35 at night. I mean, it doesn't snow here, but I mean, in Baja in general, like, yeah, it's like desert Mediterranean climate, depending on where you are. So, like, the further south you go, the more desert and less Mediterranean it becomes,
Okay.
but it's like pretty dry, a lot of cactuses,
Nice.
and a lot of
Nice.
dust and
Yeah.
in Ensenada.
But I mean, it's beautiful out there, man.
No,
From
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I think, we don't have heat or AC
Yeah.
here, so, that kind of says a lot, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, funny you mentioned that. So then you don't spend anything, gas or heat. When it comes
No,
to
I mean,
CFE
I
bill,
do have like a little heater that I'll plug in once in a while. Although
sure.
it does like it can like generate a high bill if you're like constantly using it. So like in the winter, I'll maybe turn it on for like a couple hours. Like
So yeah, so but you so,
at night, it's just like okay, you just add a couple more blankets and you'll be fine.
okay, all right. So yeah, so for those out there that don't like the warm, hot climate where I live, because again, I live in Merida, Yucatan, and out here, again, 40 degrees, unheard of. It's basically the coldest. We get down to in the winters. I think it's like maybe 60 degrees, if we're lucky, 65, give or take. It's nice. Right now we're having unseasonably cold weather. And so because of the cold weather now, it's like 70 degrees and we're freezing because we're used to like 100 plus, 100 degrees or
If
100. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Um,
me, like I'm so used to the weather here now that 75 degrees Fahrenheit starts to feel a little hot.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you can't complain. That I think that's why a lot of people live here too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
there is a pretty decent expat community. I will say that I think the majority of them are retired. So, you don't find very many. Uh, I'd say people my age, like Americans living in Ensenada. I mean, there's a handful that I've like run into skateboarding and you know uh, in the music scene and things like that, but for the most part, like my social groups are just like Mexican people that I've made friends with.
Yeah.
Yeah, skateboarding and playing music and yeah, just sort of like finding my way in little communities here to just like get to know people and stuff. So and
And by the
so
way, how did you get your residency?
so I did it through like the financial solvency route.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, I was able to like with savings and like you
Yeah,
know
no, yeah. I mean, no, I am asking
yeah.
because like a lot of people
And
want to know. Yeah.
at the time,
Yeah.
I tried to do the permanent route
Yeah.
because I was doing, I guess, pretty well this one year, and like for like these 6 months, like I had enough proof of income to qualify for permanent. I was like, oh, this is like the perfect storm. But when I got to the consulate, they were like, nah, we can only give you temporary because you're too young.
Okay.
um, because it's like you're not retired. I was like, yeah, but I made enough money, and they're like, well, no. But then again, that's where you also run into like living here. You learn that there's a lot of like Mexican bureaucracy, and what one person might say is okay, another person will say no, and
Yeah.
even if you qualify, they might just say no because you're too young. So
Yeah.
that's something to keep in mind. But I think residency is an option if if you have savings and you can.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, the reason I bring this up because there's a lot of people out there. They're constantly talking about the fact like, oh, I could not get residency. It's so hard. It's so difficult. Now that there's no RNE program, for me to get
Right.
residency easier and yada yada yada. What am I going to do? Listen, you can do it. Again, Mike. Let's remind everybody. What do you do
Well,
for a
I
living?
think
Yeah.
I think for me, it was also kind of like a lot of things just happened to line up at the right time too, because, well, COVID happened and then I was sort of unemployed, but still, like, kind of working, and then that's when I decided to just, like, leave LA to come to Mexico, and at the time, yeah, I had, like, a handful of clients that I had, you know, gained working as, like, a sound engineer doing, like, sound design and sound mixing.
Gatorade packs carbs to refuel and electrolytes to replenish, so you can bring the heat. Nothing beats Gatorade.
And I sort of was able to just, like, build off of that, I guess, you know? So, like, as soon as I left, I at least had, like, a little bit of, like, a client base who, like, of people who would be hitting me up to, like, work on stuff, which was good, and, like, one of the projects that was, like, one of the ones that I worked on, like, the year before also, like, so like, there's what's cool is that, like, I've also had some pretty, loyal clients as well who, like, always come to me to work, but, like, there's some things that I'll always, like, work on every year, which is cool, you know? But yeah, like I had that like little base of clients to begin with, and then eventually that sort of grew to the point where like, well, yeah, I mean, now I am my own like little business. I have an LLC that like, it's based in the US, but also living out here, if you make less than a certain amount, you do also qualify for the foreign earned income exclusion. I don't know if anybody knows about that, but like, you can save a decent amount on your taxes by living abroad and not working in the US. So
Yeah.
yeah, like, like a lot of things were able to just sort of like line up, and then that's how I was able to, yeah, like just kind of keep it going, And yeah, there are some days where, or even a couple weeks where it's like I don't have work because I'm a freelancer. I don't have a full time job, and it's like, well, what do I do in the meantime? Well, yeah, I still try to keep myself busy, and like I'll skate and work on some music stuff and other side projects and things like that. But I guess yeah, also living here does afford me the time to, yeah, pursue other things when I'm not working, and in Ensenada, there's like, yeah, like it's a pretty big skate culture. Like there's a lot of people who even move here from all over the world to surf because this is like surf, surf cradle, la cuna de surf de Mexico. Like this is kind of where it all started. So like I've met people from like Spain and Argentina, like
Yeah.
all over the place, other parts of Mexico, who come to Ensenada to like live and surf. People who like mountain bike, like we have like all that to be able to do here. So there's a lot of people who, do that. So you meet a lot of interesting people as well, like living here as a young person with
Yeah, man.
hobbies, yeah, if you have an interest, like that's, I think like living anywhere, if you have like an interest in something, like if you keep pursuing that interest, like you'll meet the right people that you're going to click with. So,
Yeah, 100%. Because again, the thing is, it's like, a lot of people, some of them, for example, you're a freelancer in your case. So you get to work from home office, right? Like you and me.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of people that still work a traditional job. They might work in San Diego and then they'll
yeah,
cross over every day to live in, Tijuana, whatever.
uh-huh.
Yeah, and that's part of their commute is just crossing over back and forth every day or every so often. Again, you said you go visit family from time to time, right? Up in
Yeah, yeah. I
California.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll see family up there, or like back in New Jersey, and you can
Okay.
fly out of San Diego to get to the East Coast.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. Yeah, man. And so, you said that you've been out to Merida a few times, right?
yeah,
What
yeah.
is
I
it you
mean,
like about?
I've been to
Yeah.
like a bunch of places in Mexico now. I
Okay.
think I've been to like 10 different states or something like that. So
Okay.
I've seen like a good amount
Okay.
of
Tell us. So tell
Mexico.
us about each one a little bit if you don't
Well, yeah,
mind.
I could
Yeah.
talk about Merida. I mean, you could say that it's like very different than Ensenada. I
Yeah.
mean, like there's like American influence, and no, but it's just like way totally different vibes. I mean, it's like going from the desert to the jungle. So it's like, a very different atmosphere and weather. Food is very different. Obviously there's like some things that are always going to be the same with like tacos and, maybe some traditional Mexican food, right? But like the Yucatan cuisine is very different than like the Baja, like Mediterranean sort of cuisine that they have here. So
Yeah. So what do they have over there in
well, yeah,
Baja?
like I mean, fish tacos come from Ensenada. It's
Okay.
like fish and shrimp tacos, and
Yeah.
like I mean, all of like the northern like Pacific, I'd say it's like very like mariscos driven, like a lot of like cócteles, aguachile, tostadas de
A lot
ceviche,
of seafood.
carne asada,
Okay. Yeah.
uh-huh.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. 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 Because out here.
Burritos, tortillas de harina,
Okay. So they
not
got. Okay. So there you go. So they got burritos up there because yeah. Yeah.
the
There.
the real burritos, and they don't have rice in them.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, and again, the flour tortillas are
Uh-huh.
the what people eat up there, and that's what they eat up there. That's what the Mexicans eat up there. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because out here in
Yeah,
Many, yeah,
you'll see like the like classic like Baja thing is like you'll always see like little like burritos like in the morning like on the side of the highway that you can just like you're about to go to work. It's like, oh, let me grab like some burritos. Like the
nice.
tamales are at night. I don't know how
Ah,
I don't
okay.
know how it is in Yucatan if they
No,
have it.
well, the night, day, whatever, out here. So and then tamales are very different as well. We have different tamales here than they do over there.
Uh-huh.
The tacos here are different. Again, they have the same tacos in all of Mexico, but like right, there's like the pastor, and there's a few that
Uh-huh.
are the same, but every region has completely different.
Yeah, yeah,
Out
yeah.
here it's corn tortillas. Out here they have it's more Mayan cuisine, which is like again Mayan food. I don't know. And then with Caribbean, Cuban food.
Oh yeah, I
It's
do
like a
really like
weird
the
mix. It's
lechon. I
cool.
really like
Yeah.
lechon because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
basically like the Cuban lechon.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I love it because a lot of the food is very similar to what I grew up with. Yeah, because it's in other parts of Mexico, like again over there where you're at, it's beef, it's a carne
Yeah.
asada, but out here it's pork, what I grew up with,
Uh-huh.
it's just well, roast pork and things like that, and so like yeah, so we've been to other parts as well. Like I was in Guadalajara recently, and that was awesome. They had really awesome food. I think you've been to Oaxaca, right? We
Yeah,
both went to
yeah. I've been to
Oaxaca.
Oaxaca and Guadalajara. Yeah, I've been to Merida a few times,
Mm,
Yucatan. I've been to Quintana Roo, Puebla.
okay.
Puebla has a lot of really cool spots too.
Yeah,
I mean,
I haven't been there
that's
yet. I
the
want to
thing. It's
go.
like I think the thing that I think a lot of people should take into account too is like, okay, if you want to move to Mexico, you can also realize that like Mexico tiene todo. Like there's everything here. Like you're gonna find anything you ever want. Like pretty much in Mexico. Like we have the desert, we have the jungle, we have mountains, we have rivers, we have the most beautiful beaches. Like and depending on what you want, like you could find that like basically anywhere in Mexico. It's like if you want to live in like a place like Baja, like you can.
Mhm.
It exists in Mexico, and this is it here. And then if you want something more jungle related, like you can go to
Yeah,
Yucatan
yeah.
or Oaxaca.
Yeah, exactly. Quintana Roo, or other places. Quintana Roo. That's where like the Cancun is, and Islas Mujeres, right, and all those
Uh-huh.
places. Puerto, right? I don't know. No,
Yeah, Puerto Morelos,
yeah,
Playa del Carmen.
right, right. and all that stuff. But yeah, a lot of differences out here. With how big Mexico is. That's another thing too. Mexico's huge, just like the USA. Big differences in culture, big differences in many things. And speaking of
Yeah,
which,
big differences
like
in like accents and
yeah,
slang and
yeah,
things like that.
yeah.
Like
And actually, and speaking of which, even when it comes to like the dating culture, because again, for us, when we came out here, we're very young still. When I met Christian, I was in my 30s. I can't believe we've already been together 6 years, married 5. You've been out here again like 5 years, give or take, and
yeah,
right, and so yeah, and like you've dated, just like I have, but that's another thing too. Like in the USA, it's just a true fact of what it is. For people our age, man, forget about it, man. These days is no bueno. It's very difficult. But when you come out here, not so much, right? I mean, I don't know. I've been out of the dating game for a while, but how is it these days?
I
If you don't
mean,
mind talking about that for a
yeah,
second,
we
yeah.
can talk a little bit about it. I mean, yeah, when I first moved here, I was like dating somebody, and then that ended. Honestly, like not too long after, which was honestly like for the best. It's like, oh God. But just like then it's like, well, yeah. Also, part of like the mystery and like the excitement of like when I first moved here, because it's like, well, what the fuck, or what do I do now? It's like, well, just do my own thing. It's like
Yeah.
like I've always done, pretty much. But yeah, and then I've had like one other girlfriend since then, that also like ended, and
Yeah.
like sort of dated in between. I haven't dated anybody since the last relationship that I've had, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I think it's like a much better place to be like meeting chicks than in the US. I think for the most part, like the women are gonna be more women, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think that there's also even differences within Mexico that like I know we've talked about this before too. It's like, yeah, like in the north, that yeah, there is like that American influence. So like
Yeah.
they might be a little bit more Americanized, like living
Ah,
in Baja California or Monterrey, like in Nuevo León and places like that, than they would be living in like Oaxaca or Yucatan
right.
or other parts of Mexico. So, yeah, there's a difference in even like dating and within Mexico. But I'd say in like the overall picture, yeah, it's like, a much better place to be, meeting quality chicks.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yes. I mean, seriously. But I mean, not just that, not just quality partners, but even quality people.
Yeah.
Again, you said you made a lot of
Yeah.
Mexican friends there, just like I've made a lot of Mexican friends out here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think like
yeah.
straight up, like 99% of my acquaintances are Mexicans. Like
Okay.
I
Yeah,
really don't hang out with any American people,
yeah,
and it's not like that I don't want to like interact with other Americans, but like it just yeah, there's not that very many
yeah,
young Ensenadenses like
yeah.
or not Ensenadenses, but
Americans.
yeah, Americans. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not very blah, can we cut that right there?
No,
Uh,
no. Let's leave it. Let's see the. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So who's that? Who's your Mexican friend there?
yeah, it's just Bark.
Hey, Bark.
He's my little bud.
Yeah,
Yeah, you just got to be like proactive, and I think it's I don't know. I guess it's hard to say, but like you almost have to be really okay with like total like not total freedom, but like it's like total independence, because it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
I don't have anybody out here, like yeah, like the girlfriends that I had, like I don't really, there's nothing really that keeps me here. Also, even in Ensenada, but it's like here I am still in Ensenada. But like in Mexico in general, it's like, well, I am total lone wolf. So it's like, you got to be like kind of okay with that in a way. So you got to have balls, I think. My dad has said that to me a couple times. Like, you have more balls than anybody in the family, because like no one else would do what you did. So it's like, you kind of do have to take a little bit of a leap of faith and just trust yourself. But yeah, you got to like put in the work. And if you have, like I mentioned before, like you have some interests, just like pursue those interests, and that's how you meet the right people. So,
yeah.
um,
You have an amazing life out here, man. I mean, come on, man.
yeah,
But look, again, people in the audience, for reals. I interview a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people, but this is like my friend. We actually talk. We have a relationship with her, and like, we talk about it all the time, man. How cool it is, to live out here. The fact that yes, it sucks that the USA is heading in the direction it's heading, but out here in Mexico, it's a complete opposite. We're like a lot of the major art festivals and music festivals and all this stuff going on. It's happening out here, Guadalajara and Mexico City and like all these places. Where's like the next tech hub? It's out there, in Guadalajara. again, Mexico City, all these places. So it's like, a lot of these things are moving out here. A lot of the, centers of culture of, so many things are, this is the place to be. If it's not the
Yeah.
place to be now, it's the place to be real soon. It's one of those, it's turning into one of those, capitals of
Yeah,
awesomeness.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I totally agree, and I think we got in at the right time. I think, it's never gonna be I think it's never gonna be the wrong time to make the decision to, like, move somewhere outside of the US, because at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know, I think you can just have a better life in so many other places, and I'm not saying come to Mexico, but you can live a life like you do in Mexico elsewhere too, like, there's plenty of other places that you can live that, have more quality of life than, like, basically anywhere in the US, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, in the long run, yeah, like, where's the US headed? I don't really know. I mean, I don't have too much faith. I don't want to see it, like, totally tank and whatnot, but I almost feel like, yeah, okay, Mexico, does it have its problems in the grand scheme of things too? Yeah, like, there's a lot of problems here, but I think in the long run, like, it's gonna be better off living in Mexico than living in the US. And, even just from, like, a investment standpoint, real estate and just, like, yeah, industry, I mean, there's, like, the Tren Maya that they just finished, and, like, I think they're trying to even do, like, a Baja Tren at some point. They're gonna, like, work on that, like, new Panama Canal, basically, that, like, cuts through the isthmus. In a way, it's like, that's also good and bad, it's like, everything has its ups and downs, but it's like, yeah, I think Mexico is just, like, booming, while the US is just like,
It's doing its thing,
nah, yeah.
It is what it is, Hey,
Yeah,
we're not
and
here to
like,
judge, it's a
and
free
even just, like,
country.
from
Yeah.
a, yeah, like, I'm not saying you should move out here also for economic reasons, but it's like,
Right.
there's also a lot of economic benefits of living here. Like I said, there's, like, the foreign earned income. So if all of your income's basically coming from the US, well, yeah, then you're, like, golden. You're gonna pay really low taxes. If you buy a house out here, even if you're living within, like, the, restricted zone, and you have to get the fideicomiso, whatever you're paying a year in the fideicomiso and the property tax, the predial, it's not gonna be near whatever you're paying in the US. Like, I mean, don't even get me started. Like in New Jersey, like where I come from, it is the highest property tax in the US. And it's like, people pay more in property tax in the US every month than I do, like, in like
And
a
rent.
year,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
rent. And like they pay that maybe in like half a year or something like that. And it's like, and you own that property. So it's like,
yeah.
what is that all about? There's, also benefits, yeah, owning real estate out here and, like,
Yeah.
living
Because the
here.
freedom, look, the freedom, again, I talk about freedom all the time,
Yeah, 'cause
same as you, we're freedom, while we're out here. But look, that's part of it. We got to be 100% honest. It's economic freedom. The fact that, again, I can live out here. I can, have a wife. I can do the whole thing, can support the whole thing. Not making that much money, just living my dream, doing my YouTube thing,
yeah,
but like, for you, same thing. You can come out here, and just live your dream, do your thing. And, you can live your life, where in the USA, it's just everything keeps getting more and more expensive. It's not enough money at all. Out here, worst case scenario, again, we can just, definitely, what I mean? Like, you right now, if like it gets really, really bad, for example, let's say Hollywood, right? There's no more work for you, because it dries up
yeah,
in the USA. Listen, for you, you don't have much of a problem. Yeah, it's going to suck a little bit. You're going to have to move to, Guadalajara. And then now you're gonna have to live there, and that's the new Hollywood there. You know what I mean? Like, or the Mexican Hollywood, or it's like, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? You speak Spanish. You come from L.A. You've done. You got a portfolio.
yeah,
I've shown people. What you do. I mean, are you kidding me? And so it's like, you go out there and you got a job like that. You know what I mean? Like, no big deal. Now, again, you're comfy doing what you're doing now, but if it gets
yeah,
to it, it gets to it. Same as me. You know what I mean? If whatever happens, I can't do what I do no more. Well, same thing. Again, there's many options for us. And so that's the thing. Now we got to put in the hard work. We got to remember that we're immigrants out here. And,
yeah,
but for us, being younger, having this, still, energy and life to us, that again, in the USA, it just feels like, come on, man, what, what future do we really have out there for them, like for most Americans. And so, out here it's like, yeah, man, out here you can just continue doing and living your life, and
Yeah.
you have, if you already know what you want to do, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I want to be a musician. Hey, I want to make dumb YouTube videos. Because again, guys, let me remind you, I started making YouTube videos 10 years ago. All right. So that was your age. Okay. 33. All right. So, that's when I started doing this. And before that, I was a chef. I was a cook. Okay. Yeah, I was a chef a few times. Okay. But I was a cook. Okay. That's what I
Yeah.
did for my whole life. And at 33, I was like, what am I gonna do? Whatever. And I started making videos, hoping, praying to God, hey, maybe this will make me money. Yeah, 8 years later, 7 years later, it made me some money. To the point where I get to survive. But look,
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
same as you, Mike. You know what I mean? And many out there, that you guys have something you want to do, whatever it is. And now here you can start, making things, and selling them online. And you don't need to make that many sales. You can just, have an online job. You can do other things. Again, right now, you do sound
Yeah. I
engineer.
mean,
I used to edit videos, but yeah, but there's
there
there's a
there are a
way.
lot of online jobs. I mean, I think I'm very lucky and fortunate that I get to kind of do
Mhm.
something that I really love to do and make a living. But like there are plenty of jobs that I think you can get like working,
Yeah. No, they're all on
like
my website, man. I got
uh,
a list of tons of jobs that people can get out there, and there's even more stuff out there. But the thing is that like a lot of people, they think that they'll just come to the Mexico and everything's just gonna be handed to them, or it's just gonna come off a tree. No,
yeah,
no,
you
man,
got to
you
be
gotta
strategic, I think, is the
correct.
thing too.
But yeah, for a lot, and it's, the younger you are, the more ability you got to do this. And I know a lot of people want to do this, and there's still a way to do this. And even when it comes to like things like residency, there's other avenues to get your residency in case you don't financially qualify.
Yeah,
But for a
like
lot of
if
people,
you think about it, like if like a year can go by
hmm
pretty darn quick, and if you get a decent job and you can prove income for 6 months, then like that's all you need. So it's like if you
yeah,
can dedicate like that amount of time to getting a decent enough amount of money coming in while still in the US, it gives you time to plan to like get here and where you might want to go. And just like, if you really want to come out here, like anybody can do it. It's just a matter of
how bad do you
ganas.
want it, right? I like
Yeah,
always, yeah,
tienes,
I always
tienes
say.
ganas o no. Okay, o sea,
Oh, I know, right? We both said it at the same time. We interrupted each other. Sorry, what were you saying? Sorry.
que si tienes las ganas o no, o sea,
Yeah,
like, do
yeah,
you want it
exactly.
or not?
Exactly. How bad do you actually want it? And so
And
that's the
yeah,
thing. I mean? Like, you can definitely make it happen. A lot of people look at us, and they say, man, you're lucky, or man, you put a lot of work into what you did, or a lot of effort, or again, like your dad, or people like in my family have told me, it's like, man, you got the balls, the biggest balls in the family for doing what. But it's like, I mean, I don't know, I look at my life, maybe you do the same, but it's like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it was just like there was,
in a way,
yeah,
yeah,
it
but
wasn't,
it's like
yeah,
it's like all small little decisions that have led here,
yeah,
right? So it's like every day is its own little adventure.
yeah.
So, but yeah, just yeah, anybody can move out here. But yeah, just like putting in the work is it takes time, but you just gotta like wait for it to bear its fruits.
Yeah, man. And that's it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's like, yeah, man. It's like we're not that crazy. You know what I mean? Like I think it's
No,
just more of
I
a,
think more
yeah,
and more people are realizing that
yeah.
like it's like, oh wow, like I
There's,
get it.
yeah, it's doable. It can actually be done, but
Yeah.
it's it's not gonna be easy. And it's like a lot of times people don't understand that they're putting in the same or more effort into the crappy lives that they're living right now, as opposed to just putting in a little bit of extra effort to make it happen, to live abroad, and then
Uh-huh.
you get to really just chill, and live your life. And speaking of which, what do you do out there, to chill, for, like a daily life, like you, I know you
Yeah, like
told me
when I'm
yeah,
not working.
yeah, you say you skateboard,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
play
like
music. What
I'll
kind of
like if
music?
working, I'll like go skate, like that's basically how I made most of my friends like at the beginning, just like introducing myself or people introducing themselves to me like at the skate park. So yeah, I'll go skate. Sometimes like on Sundays, like when things are closed, like we'll go like skate in the street, just like old times, like just running a little ruckus up there.
Yeah,
But
man.
Yeah, and then like take the dog out, like go hiking and stuff, just try and like go to the beach. The water's super cold here though, so it's like I don't really go in unless it's summertime.
Okay.
Um, and unfortunately, like in a lot of places, it is kind of like, to be perfectly honest, like some of the most contaminated beaches in
Uh,
Mexico, unfortunately. In Baja Sur, totally different story, like way better, but yeah, not the cleanest
okay. Oh, that's
ocean out
interesting. Okay.
here, you
And so,
know.
it was so, again, being a musician, what music do you play? What instrument do you play? What do you
I
do?
play like a little bit of everything. I mean, I
Okay.
mostly play the guitar, I guess, and
Okay.
piano. But yeah, I've got like my songs out there. Like have a couple albums that I've put out, and then I'll like work on music for friends for like little projects here and there. Like I'm working on music for a movie right now with a friend. I don't want to say too much about like what I'm doing, but yeah, like that's been kind of fun. So when I'm not like working on like work, because actually we're taking like a pretty interesting approach because the film hasn't even been shot, so we're sort of creating these soundscapes like before the film is even shot, so that when they shoot it they can like listen to some stuff. And so like that's been kind of fun, like, yeah, it's stay busy
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the
doing
thing,
lots of different
like
stuff.
you were saying, you get to do
Yeah,
projects
jam
out
with
here.
people. Like I'll get together with friends like maybe one night every
Yeah.
couple weeks and just like play music, like improvising, just like, just
Yeah. No, but yeah, but that's the thing. Like out here, you get to, again, you're still doing what you love, all
yeah,
music
yeah,
related,
yeah.
but you get to do all these cool things that again, if you're working a regular, normal, traditional job in the U.S. to pay the bills, to pay rent, you don't have time to maybe do a lot of these things
Yeah.
and interact with the people
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, living here does afford me like, yeah, a lot of just, yeah, a
yeah,
lot of time and freedom to just like do what I really want to do when I'm not working, and maybe eventually, yeah, like obviously the dream for everybody is to like stop working and just have like passive income, right? But it's
yeah,
like, I think that's almost like way more possible here than living in the US at this point too,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
so
and it's cool again the fact that you said all these things that you were doing for fun and all these again all your Mexican friends living in a small beach town and yet you get to still do you get to
yeah,
jam, you get to
I mean,
this, yeah,
hey,
yeah,
it's like it's definitely rancho
yeah,
sometimes. Like it
sure,
feels
yeah,
like everybody knows each other,
yeah,
but there are like almost like 500,000 people here.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like it's like a medium-sized
yeah.
city, and I mean Ensenada means in Spanish it means cove. So like if you
Okay,
look at it on a map, it's just like a big little like half moon sort of
okay.
thing. So it's like the whole city is kind of in this one like
Cove, yeah,
bay, yeah, in this one
yeah,
cove,
cool.
So it's like, yeah, it's like a lot of stuff spread out, but
Yeah.
you can get pretty much anywhere in like 20-30 minutes.
Oh, that's cool. A little history
Yeah,
there on
there's
the
definitely history here.
yeah,
There's like Russian communities that had come
okay,
here like to live in like the wine country a long time ago, and like a lot of like French and Italian influence like up in the
okay.
wine country as well. Like
Oh, so
obviously like the
you live in wine country? Mexico has
no,
wine?
I would, yeah, yeah, we have wine country here. I mean, it's
Okay,
like 30 minutes from my house. I live like in the city.
okay.
But yeah, like 30 minutes away, there's like it's like the Napa Valley of Mexico,
Ah, yeah.
Valle de Guadalupe. I'm sure
uh,
maybe I don't know, maybe people have heard of it, maybe not. But yeah, there's a lot of really great restaurants. I mean, definitely a little bit more like high end, but
yeah.
like still accessible. I think
Yeah,
there's some
yeah, because
pet
yeah,
friendly places too. You could take the dog and just
okay.
like
Nice, nice. Yeah, yes, the Napa Valley. Yeah, yeah, no, because a lot of people, they only think that Mexico has beer and tequila, but no, we got
But Ensenada does have like a really big like beer scene.
okay.
Like there's I don't even know how many breweries, but like some award winning cerveza comes from Ensenada.
Oh
I mean, have you
wow.
ever heard of Wentland? I don't know.
No, 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 no.
There's a beer that they make that I've had it in Merida called Perro del Mar.
Okay,
Keep an eye out for it. It's like an IPA, don't know, but they make a
okay.
bunch of different beers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like there's a lot of beer culture here. I mean, yeah, it's a lot like San Diego mixed with San Francisco, but then also
Yeah, yeah.
Mexico,
It's the west
obviously.
coast
So
of
it's like,
Mexico. Yeah, the west
yeah,
coast of yeah. Okay.
and yeah, it's still very like coastal. So it's
Yeah.
like
No, that's super cool. Yeah, so it's yeah, so
it's
the
like a
wine country.
big mishmash of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no. So like I mean the whole wine country thing, that would be like again like Northern California type vibes
Uh-huh.
and all that cool stuff and like yeah, I'm sure touristy and beautiful and nice and like it's just cool, the fact that that's what you got like in your backyard,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I
pretty
mean,
awesome.
it's like a lot of hills, I mean, and yeah, like as you go further south, it gets to be like more desert, but like there's mountains, and like when it rains here, it snows in the mountains, and like Actually, there's one park called San Pedro Martir, and I have a video that I'll include
Okay.
in the stuff that I'm going to share with you. And yeah, like there's like an observatory there, and like I went once and I got like a tour of like the telescopes and everything. And it was like pretty dope. It was free, you know. It was, like every day you just had to meet up at like a certain time in this one little like lot, and they take you in and you get to see, like, not at night, but you know, in the day you get to see, but
Yeah.
at night you see some crazy stuff in the sky, you know, not just stars, but I don't know what else to call it, but you know.
Unidentified flying
Yeah,
objects.
let's leave it at that. But yeah, it's a really cool place, you know, and like,
Yeah.
you know, you're super high up there, you know, it's
Yeah.
like you're in the pine forests and you look out over the peak and you see like desert on the other side. It's just like, this is like crazy. It's a lot like California, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
if you've been to California, you know, like some of those national forests out there, it's
Yeah.
kind of like that when you get up into the thick of it here. But
No,
yeah,
that's
as you
super
get
cool.
further south, more you know, just more like more deserted. And then yeah, obviously on the inside of Baja, because it's like where the Sea of Cortez is, it's going to be a lot hotter for the most part than the Pacific side, because you're constantly getting that Pacific breeze, whereas over there it's just like kind of stagnant water and air, and it's just like, I guess, like very hot, you know.
Okay.
So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because it's like very different all the way down in like La Paz and Cabo and
yeah,
yeah.
once you get to Cabo, that's like the actual line of like the tropics. So like that's where you
Ah,
start to see like,
it's hot.
you know, like bananas and
Okay.
like mangoes. So like there are parts of Baja where you can grow like, you know, tropical fruit, like in La Paz and Todos Santos and Cabo.
Okay.
So yeah,
No,
for
that's cool.
those people out there interested in that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's super cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
here's
man.
me. I'm more like Mediterranean. Like where I live in my neighborhood, there's like fig trees, guayaba, orange, lemon, lime, avocado, like lots of different stuff you see around. Nispero, I think it's called like loquat. It's kind of like a kumquat, this kind of like
Okay.
tiny little
Oh,
thing.
that's
So.
super cool. Yeah, man. And it sounds like really nice up there. We definitely got to go visit, man. I mean,
Dude, yeah,
besides,
that's the thing.
yeah,
I really do enjoy living here, and I've always said like it would be nice to go somewhere else, because there is so many places in Mexico that I think would be amazing to live. But at the same time, like you can't complain. Like I think Ensenada does have a lot to offer.
yeah,
Like the weather is pretty decent, you know, and the food is good. And if you really do need to go to the US, like the border's not too far away. I mean, I never really go, but if that's something that, you know, is important to you, that's
yeah. But
a
it's like
place
a
to fly.
2 hour drive or something, right? To
Yeah,
get to San Diego.
it's like an hour and a half to get
Okay.
to the border, but then depending on the time of day, it may take you a few hours just to get across the
Yeah,
border in the car. Walking
yeah,
is always going to be a lot faster, you know.
yeah.
But you know, for me, I'm not just going to leave my car in TJ and cross on foot. If I'm going to cross, I might as well just bring my car, right? But if
Right,
you
right.
have like Sentry or Global Entry, those are things that I think you can apply for to go into like a fast lane. So, I mean, I've never looked into it too much, because I've always heard that sometimes the appointments might take a long time. So it's like, well, is it really worth it? And do I cross over enough for it to be worth it? Maybe not. So, no, but there are those options out there.
So, with all that said, would you ever consider moving back to the USA, living back in the USA? Do you think that living in Mexico is just like a temporary thing? You're just going through a phase, or
No,
yeah, are you gonna move back?
okay. I don't think I would ever like move back like 100%. Just because I think I'll never have like the same. It's just like it's like I got like spoiled living here, so like I don't think I'll ever have like the same quality of life fully if I like moved back 100%. Do I think maybe like it would be cool to own like some property there at some point, like in some place that I think is like affordable, you know, like with low property tax? And like, yeah, for sure, maybe. But like I think I'm more focused on like investing my time and money like in Mexico. Yeah, I've been back like, you know, a few times since I've like moved here. And I think back on like, yeah, oh wow, it was like a really great place to like grow up and everything. But I think yeah, this is another chapter. Like this is new chapter. So, you know, I think I'm here to stay, you know, and I'm also like I had mentioned before, I'm already like really close to becoming a permanent resident. And then a year after that, I can try to become a citizen. You know, I think there's plenty of reasons for me to also just like keep living here. I mean,
Yeah. So,
I just don't know if I would genuinely have the same quality of life. So it's like, I don't know if I would be happy. And it's also just like, I don't know, it feels very sterile sometimes. It just feels like you're looking at like Sims World. It's just like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that I wanted to ask you is that you touched on the quality of life thing, and the fact that like how life out here is just so different to the point where for some people in the audience, they might have a hard time assimilating to the culture, assimilating to life out here. But for people like us, it's like as soon as we moved out here, it was just like it fit like a glove. It was just like it was like a
Yeah.
relief. It was like, oh, this is how life should be lived. This is how I want to live my life. This is the freedom to this and that. And like again, right now, you said you visit the USA, and every time you go visit the USA, it's like, oh, you know what I mean? You got to get ready, like all these things, you got to get mentally ready. Now you got to
Yeah.
start following these rules. You got to this, you got to that. And it's like, it's more of a hassle, and you're just visiting. Imagine having to, like you said, go back and live there.
Uh-huh.
Again, if you're if you have a certain resources, if you're rich, like I said all the time, if I had like $100 million in the bank, yeah, of course, I probably have a house in Coral Gables in Florida. There, I'd be
Yeah.
living,
Yeah.
I'm chilling. I got nothing to worry about. But other than that, what I mean, like no, I mean, why? Like I'm not gonna have any kind of freedom out there for reals. Like the freedom we have here, the lifestyle that we have here.
Yeah, I mean, I was even talking to this Mexican lady the other day who I like have sort of become friends with. This like older woman who like takes her dog to where I go skating, and I'll sometimes bring Bark, my dog. And she was saying how like yeah, she didn't like living in the US, and that's why she came back to Mexico. And, yeah, even Mexican people like who have lived in the US are like, yeah, screw this. Like
Right, right, right. Yeah, so all right, so that answers the question. So because the thing is like I asked this, I know it's easy for, maybe older folk, like, all right, I'm just gonna come out here and that's it. This is where I'm gonna call it a day. But for us younger folk, it's like, for some of us, we're looking to even set up roots,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, and so it's like, yeah, we don't, we have to pick a spot, it's like I don't know, it just doesn't feel I could never I don't know. I just couldn't fathom, going back to you're saying setting up roots, there.
Yeah.
Out here, I feel like I've already set up roots. They kind of just set themselves. Yeah, and it's just like it's been more of a natural progression. And now at this point, it's funny because I was about to mention it's the fact that again I got married, so those roots were like automatic, and like
Right.
you haven't met that girl yet, right? Or you
Yeah,
married
yeah,
yet, but I'm
I'm
sure
sure
that
the
that would
right one will
really,
come along though. So
yeah,
I know the
yeah.
the right one is out there. So hey, if you're watching,
No, she might be in
I don't, I
another
don't,
part
I
of
don't know what the
Mexico.
likelihood of you watching this is, but hey, what's up?
Yeah, man. I'm telling
Um,
you, yeah, she might be in another part of Mexico watching this right
yeah,
now.
right. Yeah, yeah, that's what
Yeah,
someone has said,
yeah,
too. Or it's like, maybe there's someone somewhere else in Mexico for you. It's like, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah, I'm Mexico long haul, and
yeah.
US whatever,
Yeah, it is what
it
it
is
is,
what it
man.
is.
Yeah. Like out here too, it's just like again, like I want to emphasize the fact that since, we grew up, speaking Spanish with Spanish culture, things like that. It's like it
Yeah,
almost feels like, a lot of like way easier, for us to just live out here and right?
Yeah,
Just
I think that really helps. I mean, I think people, yeah, they need to also be realistic, where it's like, okay, like you could also, yeah, you could live in Mexico and like have all the money in the world or whatever it is, and you know, feel like you have all these luxuries. But then if you don't speak Spanish, like you might actually be suffering a lot. And depending on where you live, maybe in a place like Ensenada or Tijuana, like super close to the border, like there's more likely the possibility that someone's going to speak English. But it's like, even here sometimes, like, there's Americans who come with this like entitlement that's like they're just speaking English at the grocery store. I'm just like, what are you doing? So
mm,
uh,
okay.
like what?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Like,
interesting. Yeah, yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, the thing is, I mean, look, I say it all the time because I don't want people in the audience to feel bad. Look, my mom, okay, she's been in the USA, okay, for 50 something years and she doesn't speak English, okay?
well,
She
it's
lives
okay.
in,
Yeah, my grandma
yeah,
doesn't really
okay,
speak English, but
yeah,
it's like,
that's fine.
yeah, I think that was also a different era, and also it's just like, well, you know what? They had like their own communities. It's like,
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was gonna
yeah,
say.
like
So they have their own communities, and it's like a different kind of thing. Where look, I have family members. Like again, they had to. they move to other parts of the USA, like Baltimore, Jersey, whatever, and they speak English like you and me.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not, but that's the thing. It's like it's many things that take into place because again these family members of mine, they learn the language older. Again, our age is when they learn the
Yeah, I mean, I
language,
think
so it
it's,
can be done. Yeah,
again, like we had said before, con las ganas se puede hacer. Like, if
yeah,
you really want to learn, like, you can learn. And I think when I got here, yeah, like my Spanish was pretty good because, yeah, I come from like Cuban family, but I think it was maybe only like 75% as good as it is now, and like living here and also like listening to like music or like watching things in Spanish and just like reading and like, you gotta like go full in, like just take that deep dive, like immerse yourself because otherwise, like, how are you ever gonna like really know what's up?
yeah. That's the thing too. Like it's yeah. Again, it doesn't matter who you are out there because I know a lot of people again same kind of background as us and stuff like that, but they're not willing to immerse themselves. They're not willing to just live like true life out here because like for example like you touched on the fact that like yeah my Spanish also got way better being out here and interacting constantly in Spanish and again the culture just something about the culture now it's like I feel like there's a lot of Mexican things about us
Uh-huh.
we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
right yeah
Yeah, I mean, even my mom always says like, "Oh wow, you just like sound Mexican now," because yeah, this is where I live, and I think like my Spanish has like gotten the best and improved the most. Like even also when I moved to LA, I mean, like you start to interact with a lot of Mexican people in
yeah
LA, like on the streets and getting tacos and whatever
yeah
else. So it's like your Spanish starts to morph, and then like one thing leads to another, and then yeah, you just. I mean, yeah, I'm sure if I moved to Yucatan, I would maybe
right
lose my accent a little bit, and I would start speaking more
yeah Yucatecan
Yucateco.
yeah
But
yeah
like,
Yeah, because like I mean, I listen to other people from other parts of Mexico. They all got their different accents. Some are more difficult
yeah,
than others, and yeah, just like in the USA, right? I mean, just
yeah,
that's the
exactly.
thing. Yeah, that's the thing too. Like because again, you live in one part of the country that has a completely different culture than again you're
Well,
living in California.
actually, like a actually really interesting
Mhm.
thing that I heard. I don't know how true this is, but that like they say that in northern Mexico, like that the Mexicans speak like very golpeado, like super fuerte, y como que, hey, ¿qué onda, güey? ¿Qué pasa? Like super, like punctuated and everything, it sounds like they're almost like yelling at you, right? But it's like they say that, they had to speak that way because this was like disputed territory. So it's like, a huevo somos mexicanos y vamos a hablar bien fuerte para que sepan que somos mexicanos. So it's like the accent
Uh,
like developed in this way because of like the la frontera. So it's like,
yeah.
no, this is still fucking Mexico, like.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah, that's cool because they do speak that way up there, and out here it's just more soft and like a little bit more, just chill
Uh-huh.
and like just like almost like como te dice, like like, there's like a sound
Como
to yeah,
cantadito.
yeah. And so it's like out here, it's like a southern accent. So out
Uh-huh.
here, living out here where I live, it's like living in the south of the USA. The south,
Yeah.
the southern. But it's like Florida weather, but like the south. The Gulf Coast type thing. And where you're at, it's basically and in your part, it's like like California. You got the
Yeah, it's
California
like,
vibes. But as you go through the borders, the border states, yeah, they speak, very rough. They're the ones that are in the cowboy suits, right?
yeah, like
With yeah,
Sonora,
yeah, yeah.
Chihuahua,
And
all
those are
those.
the
Oh
more
yeah,
the
el
rough and
norte,
yeah,
el
yeah,
norte.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Because remember, a lot of people in the audience, they might not know the differences, between, all the Mexicans. But yeah, like the Mexicans
Uh-huh.
up in the north, they're more like the cowboy, rough, Texas, what that kind of Mexican, whatever. And then the further south you go, when you go to Guadalajara, Mexico City, that's like, the people are living in LA, the people are living in New York
Yeah,
City, that kind of vibe. And then when you come out here, I'm living in the south, when you go to Oaxaca, what Oaxaca is like a very, and the Chiapas area, that area is like, they're always fighting the government and they're
yeah.
always like, hey, so what would that be, I guess, like in the USA these days? I don't know.
I don't
Yeah, I
even
don't
know.
know. It
No,
used to be the whole country,
no,
but
no,
anyways.
no.
So we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see
we'll
how that all
see.
plays out. But while that happens, we're gonna be out here in Mexico, right? Drinking our micheladas, right? Or beer or wine, or
Yeah,
tequila or mezcal, whatever. I'll be in my pool. You'll be on your roof deck, right there in your, with your with your vine with your vineyard, right?
yeah,
But we're
yeah.
gonna be chilling out here, living our our lives, while they go on ahead and make America great again or not or whatever, build back better, whatever it is they're doing up there. We wish them the best. And yeah. In the meantime, we're just gonna be living our life and enjoying our life, right? Because we've only got one life,
Yeah.
right?
So they say. So
Yeah.
it's only one way to find out. I don't know. Just got to wait till it ends, I guess. But hey,
Gotta
we're here for
enjoy.
now.
That's right. That's right. At least we got this life, and we gotta enjoy this life, and
For sure.
that's 100%. So we gotta, whether or not we get another one later on, who knows? And I
Yeah.
think depending on the religion, right? I think we gotta do good
Yeah.
here,
Yeah. Yeah.
otherwise,
Yeah.
we're not gonna end up so good in the next life or whatever. So,
No, for sure.
but anyways, with all that said, I want to ask you one last question.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do
Tell
you
me.
have any advice, any kind of advice, any kind of tips, any kind of anything, for anyone out there, that is thinking about, hey, moving out to Mexico, doing this lifestyle, whatever?
Mm, I think, I don't know. I think just have like the mindset of like, okay, like, in a lot of ways it's like living in the US, and in a lot of ways it's not. I mean, I guess I don't know where you're coming from, so it's like, I think Mexico for the most part is like a very hands-off place. People are minding their own business, and you know, I think you need to also just, I think, adapt the lifestyle 100% to really, I think, be happy in a way here. So it's like, because if you just don't accept things for the way that they are, then you're never gonna be able to like fully blossom, right, and thrive. So it's like, I think you got to be really like just open to just like taking Mexico in as like your new home, and realize okay, like I got to do the work to just like meet the right people, and that people are out there. So it's just a matter of you like, yeah, just being prepared and like knowing, okay, like, yeah, of course, like economically too. It's like, okay, like how am I gonna work? So it's like, have a plan, and I think it's very doable. Also you can always just come and visit first. If you like, I don't know, if you're already working and you can take like a week, you go visit someplace. I mean, yeah, before I even moved to Mexico, I went to Merida in 2019, like several years after like I had gone to Mexico City for the first time. So it's just like, that was like my first reintroduction. Or actually no, because I had gone to Ensenada actually before that. But yeah, like, like I took like a solo trip to Merida. So it's like, I don't know, take a solo trip if you feel comfortable doing something like that. It's like really just like take it all in, just like absorb like everything around you, and like, or go to Mexico City, or like go to Puerto Escondido. Like that place is really cool too in Oaxaca. It's like amazing beach vibes, and like very international place too. It's like you meet people from all over the world there who are gonna go surf. So it's like, I don't know, like I said too, like know what you want to do maybe too, or it's like know what you like, and like you could think about, okay, like where in Mexico is going to like make it easy for me to like do the things that I really like to do. So it's like, in a way, like, yeah, I did move to LA because of work, but like in a way I was like, oh fuck, like this is where like skateboarding came from. So it's like, how am I not gonna like want to live there, right? So it's like, and in a way, it's like that culture is here too, like with the weather and like the skating, and we might not have as good of an infrastructure sometimes, and like as good things to skate here as in the US, but it's like that's still here, so it's like, yeah, of course, that's a reason why I like living in Ensenada. So yeah, just know what you like, and know how you can like just survive and like make ends meet. So like, and if you can do that, and you're cool with kind of just like flying solo for a little while, and maybe you meet the right person and then it ends, or maybe you meet the right person and you stick it out for a really long time and you get married, and like, there's anything can happen. So it's just like, just got to take the leap of faith, I think, and yeah. Just
Yeah.
know that it's doable, but with the right steps, and
Yeah, yeah, and again, just going back to what you were, we were saying, one life. Enjoy that one
yeah,
life that you got right now.
yes, sir.
And take a leap of faith, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, you already know what you got where you're at. So why not try something new?
Uh huh.
And especially again, if you know you can make it happen. Again, you got to just put in that work, put in that effort. Whatever it is. Again, you want to lose weight, you got to stop eating. You got to do some push-ups.
Yeah,
Simple
yeah.
as that. It's the same with everything else, and you can truly, truly live the life you want to live. But it takes hard work and sacrifice and effort. And but at the end of the day, this is why I bring on my friend Mike, and again, trying to bring on other people like this, to talk about the fact that at the end of the day, you can, truly live the life that you want. You can truly make it happen. But, again, you got to put in that work. You got to put in that effort. And it's definitely doable. It might not be doable where you're at, but it's doable somewhere else. Just again, right now, there's no excuses. We live in the internet age. Again, we live in Mexico because that's just easier, best for us. It fits us. But hey, for you, it might be just another country. It might be like in another country in Europe. It might be another country in Latin America. It might be, who knows where it is. It can just simply be Canada, whatever. But just don't settle. Don't settle for whatever you got out there. A lot of people are going to say, oh, but Jose, you make it sound easy. Right now I'm in the U.S., I'm working a crappy job. I barely get enough. Listen, you can make it happen. Okay. Make a little bit more sacrifice. Okay. Look at how people live around the world. Okay. They're very poor. You can make a little bit more sacrifice. Okay. Relax. Okay. Just chill. Make it happen. If you want it bad enough, you can make it happen. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight. Okay, but right now, again, me and him were talking about this, before we did the interview. That it's just so crazy. Like, I mean, I can't believe I'm about to be here 7 years. He's been here 5, plus years.
Yeah,
And it's
almost
just
5. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just it just flies by. It's just again, time flies when you're having fun. When I used to live in the USA for a lot of times, at least for me personally. Maybe some of you guys in the audience is like, man, it's like every day was like, it was just drag and again, not all the time. We had our good experiences out there in the USA,
Yeah.
but man, now here, man, it's like you never have enough time. You know what I mean, right? It's like every day is like, fuck, it's over already. Oh my god, for me at least personally, I gotta get up earlier. I gotta get up earlier, and I gotta go to sleep later just so I can maximize. The time, the day, because all the time in the day, because it's just so much to do, so much life to live, and it's like, I think that's how people want to really live. They
Yeah,
want to wake
I
up
think
and
so.
yeah, yeah. So what were you saying?
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
Oh, yeah. No,
No,
I agree.
go. Yeah, okay, okay. I concur. Okay,
I
anyways, with all
concur.
that said, guys, okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up, man. Hey, Mike, bro, thank you so much, man. Really,
Yeah,
really
for sure.
appreciate you, coming on, and hopefully people enjoy, this conversation. Hopefully people enjoy this, and if you do, let us know down below. Perhaps Mike can come on, on the show later, on another, show, another interview, or perhaps even on the other channel. Who knows? All right. Definitely
Word.
let us
Yeah,
know
yeah.
down below if you liked him or hated him. He'll
Bruh.
no, whatever. No. Anyways, thank you guys so much. Really, really appreciate it, hanging out with us today. And I really hope you guys enjoyed today's interview and today's show. And if you did, you already know what to do. Leave a like down below, leave a comment, all that stuff. And I want to give a big shout out to all my patrons, all my, members, everyone else out there, is always helping out the show in one shape, form, or another. Thank you guys so much. And we're hoping, that again, by doing things like this, that we get to help you guys out. And we're just trying to, keep it, right? Keep it forward, or what's it called?
Yeah, pay it forward.
That's right. Pay it forward. There you go. And so, anyways, with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. And you already know the deal. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, now you're going to listen to the theme music that he made for us, all right? So enjoy that, and see you on the next one. Bye, guys.
Later.